I'm trying to express this as best as I can, but thinking of being placed in an environment, but then feeling inadequate may give you a sense of, I must be made imperfect. I must have been made broken. See, I struggle with this because, all right, so for this video, I'm not exactly sure at all what I'm going to talk about, but thank you to the sponsors of this video. Sure. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody's sponsoring this video. Although I do make content on other channels, nobody's sponsoring this video. This is me coming at you, frank, live and direct, although I can never be frank with you because my name is Steve. So anyway, welcome back to Socially Awkward Cub. I know it's kind of intermittent when I'm posting videos on this channel. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in, left comments, sent me messages. I really do appreciate you guys saying how much my story has impacted you, how much you can relate. There's kind of a burden of responsibility as far as me trying to figure out how do I lead this group of people. That's just the natural instinct I have. Sharing my story and hearing other people relate to it gives me a sense of, okay, I speak well. How can I use my story to create a bigger impact? What can I share that maybe helps somebody else unlock their potential or help them see that they're not alone, or things of that nature. So again, I really just do appreciate anybody who's left a comment and interacted with me in some way as we both go through this and try to figure out, how do I get over my avoidance? How do I get over the part of my personality that doesn't like to be around people necessarily, that needs that recharge, that's more than just introversion, but feels like it's deep-seated, and there's this element of, like it's a part of your being, and you can't necessarily escape feeling awkward and out of place everywhere you go. And I think a lot of people feel that, whether they admit it or not. And some people deal with it obviously differently, but I think there's as I'm watching the news and the generations go by, there's a lot of this feeling of vulnerability and insecurity that you have when you're young that manifests or comes out, and people express their awkwardness in many, many different ways. Relating it to my story specifically, it was, growing up with peers and growing up in an environment where I didn't feel like I was part of the group of guys, or I wasn't a guy myself, or, not that it's I didn't feel like I was a different gender. I just didn't feel like I was part of my peers. I didn't feel like I fit into my peer group. And there's that element of not fitting in that I think we all kind of have to go through in order to discover who it is that we are and who we can be to make an impact on other people, on the world, and how we can kind of overcome this struggle and this suffering in order to be a benefit to other people and be a benefit to the families that we start, the lives that we interact with, the other people that we come in contact with on a daily basis. So there's a part of the struggle that's necessary that isn't such a bad thing. It's a part of maturing, the maturation process, as some people say. So I don't think that going through a struggle or a feeling of insecurity is a bad thing. I think that there's a necessary component to that helps us to overcome and realize, hey, I'm not alone. I feel alien and different from other people, but there are other people who might be standing right next to you who might not express that, but also feel that same sense of maybe inadequacy or otherness, not feeling like they're a part of the environment. And I think that's a huge mistake. Because I think a lot of us, I don't know if we're always, separable or separate from our environment. I think, maybe a concept in Buddhism is we're a part of the environment, and we're kind of as we should be. I subscribe to that more than I subscribe to we were placed here. There's, I think it might be more of a Christian philosophy where we were created and put here. And I think I subscribe more to a philosophy of we're part of the environment. We came out of the environment rather than we were put into the environment. I've got a weird relationship with, faith, religion, Christianity, Buddhism. Big fan of Alan Watts, and Alan Watts is probably a postmodern philosopher. I know Alan Watts talks a lot about coming out of the environment rather than being put into the environment, and that kind of goes against Christian teaching and Catholic teaching as far as I understand. Again, I'm not a philosopher. I didn't go to theology. I'm not a theologian. I didn't go to Bible school or anything like that. But I think if we can learn to maybe picture ourselves as a part of the environment and something that came out of it, we may be able to maybe connect with other people who are going through similar struggles and situations that we are. That a perspective of, well, we're placed in this environment. I must have been placed here like as I am. I'm trying to express this as best as I can, but thinking of being placed in an environment, but then feeling inadequate may give you a sense of, I must be made imperfect. I must have been made broken. See, I struggle with this because, of course, in a Christian Catholic sense, we do feel like that. I think that's a part of human nature from that perspective, is that we are broken in a sense. And I think what I said earlier about the struggle and that dealing with certain things and trying to overcome is part of that brokenness. So I don't want to just throw away Catholic or Christian teaching or philosophy, because there's a sense of, yes, there are parts of us that cannot be perfect. And what is perfect? There really is no sense of perfect. If you do come from a Catholic Christian perspective, okay, you would look at Jesus Christ as being the perfect, the example that we should all strive to be. But then when we try to place that on ourselves and we try to think like, okay, I must have been put here and I am a broken being and God must have made me this way. So therefore, the other people, everybody else is fine, and I'm the one that's wrong. I'm the one that's incorrect. I'm the one that's broken and needs fixing. I think if you go down that rabbit hole too far, I think it's very detrimental, because you can just put yourself so far below everybody else and think everybody else has it and everybody else is perfect, and it's really not the case. Nobody has it. I mean, I hear stories of, I'm a marketer, so I hear stories of people that are rich and look like they have it all, and they're miserable and they're awful. They're awful people. They're not happy. They don't like the life that they've created. They're neglecting their kids. They're not doing things that they would like to do, pursuing their passion. They're not. Their spouse is unhappy. They're in an unhappy relationship, and so it can look like, by all outward measures, that they have the success that would make anybody happy. But on the inside, they could be miserable pieces of crap. Where on the other hand, you have somebody who's poor. You could have somebody who's poor and looks like they're not doing great in life. By all societal standards and measures, they're not doing great. But what is their internal life like? What is their maturity level like? What is their level of happiness like? It can be vastly different from the person who looks like they have it all versus the person who looks like they have nothing. It could just very well be that the person who looks like they have nothing is a more balanced person, is a more satisfied and fulfilled person, versus the person who's rich and miserable. So, man, I'm trying to tie this in tangent. I didn't know what this video was going to be about. I think seeing ourselves as broken and seeing ourselves as a project that needs to be fixed, I don't think that that's a healthy perspective either. But I think that there's some value and benefit to the suffering that we do go through in order for us to understand and have empathy and compassion for other people, because everybody, in my opinion, on a certain level is suffering. And if we can figure out how to deal with the suffering in ourselves, and we can help other people in their suffering. We're not going to have all the answers. There's not one other person who's going to have all the answers for us. I think we're going to get answers from individuals in bits and pieces here and there. And I think that's a lot of that has to do with our healing process, is understanding that we may not have been given everything from our parents. We may not have been given the tools and the affirmations and the things that we needed in order to feel like we're a whole person from the people that we grew up with, who raised us, where we grew up around, the environments we grew up in. And we're never going to have that one person. It's always going to be bits and pieces of information from certain individuals. I mean, I certainly will not give you answers upon answers upon answers upon answers. I will do my best to relay my experience and to try to form cohesive thoughts, although I know that a bunch of this was rambling, but to just give you a perspective of we're going through this together and we can overcome this, but we have to continue to take steps forward and to look for ourselves in other people and other people in ourselves so that we can connect with each other and come out of our shells and beat our anxiety and beat our avoidance and beat our introversion and our socially awkward traits and personalities. So there is hope in that sense. I don't want you to despair and think that you cannot overcome yourself. Just keep striving, searching, looking for answers, reaching out, looking for videos on topics like this, seeing who you resonate with, commenting, forming relationships. It's all important, and it's all a part of all of our journey here as we walk through this life together. So I'm going to end this here. I think that was enough. I think maybe there was a nugget or two in there. I hope this made sense to you, and I'll try to find some keywords and make a thumbnail that makes this make sense. But yeah, you're not alone, and we're in this together. So thank you for tuning in, Socially Awkward Cub. But let me ask you a question. What about this video was helpful to you? I know that a lot of you have said, just relaying your experience and then has been helpful to you, and then a lot of you have gone into detail about what you've been going through. So again, I do appreciate that and being able to connect with you people. But what about this particular video was helpful to you? Leave a comment. Let me know. Again, Steve here, Socially Awkward Cub, and we'll talk soon.